Welcome, episode 5 of The Card is Going to Change, presented by AIW, Absolute Intense Wrestling, based in beautiful Cleveland, Ohio, and sponsored by Smart Mark Video and the This Is Awesome Wrestling Show. Make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, and the Google Play Store. Follow AIW on Twitter at AIW. Follow AIW on Twitter at AI Wrestling, Facebook, Instagram, and visit www.aiwrestling.com for events, merch, and more. I'm your host, Glenn Moore, and joining me in studio, like always, are co-owners of AIW, John Thorne and Chandler Biggins. And this episode, we're going to be recapping what went right and what went wrong for What's in the Basement Klopek. And it was also the broadcast debut of yours truly, the color commentary of this show, full show. I want to give you guys a big thank you for letting me sit on the mic for the whole show.
Don't remind us.
It's just because Carson couldn't make it.
Jeez. It would have been
one of many cancellations.
Oh, so let's get into it. The original plan for the show, you had Grado coming in. You had Brian Myers coming in. Myers is the AIW staple. Grado has been featured the last couple of years here in AIW. Those two couldn't make it, so you bring in the franchise. Shane Douglas to face off against Brian Carson. First of all, what happened with Grado and Brian Myers?
If only it went that simple, it's the way you say it.
Yeah, I'm glad I got my Vegas fuel cracked open. I'm ready to explain what was supposed to happen and what didn't happen. I guess, first and foremost, the show was never even supposed to have that many stars on it to begin with. It was initially supposed to be like a student kind of, I don't want to call it a B show, but a B show, like, you know, a match or a show.
Like a road show.
Yeah, more heavily featuring the AIW students to get them in there and get them some experience. And then just, you know, out of nowhere, that changed drastically because TNA canceled their set of television tapings. So we had all these TNA people kind of hitting us up to get booked, and you know that's where Grado came into play. And EC3, we had asked a long time ago about the date, and then he couldn't do it because of TNA. And then he was available, and then DJZ was available. So initially, it was just supposed to be kind of a more conservative lineup to get the students some experience, and
that was one of the only free weekends we had availability for Flamita.
Yeah. Well, Flamita was, he's a guy that we'd been trying to book forever. Thanks to, people like Adam Lash just on me relentlessly about having to book Flamita. So, we had been going through various channels to get in touch with him because, booking somebody with that doesn't speak the same language is it could prove to be very difficult. We had been working with Conan and then Rob Viper and then Randy, a guy named Randy, who actually flew out to come to the show, and he actually helped out in person with translating and kind of bridging that language gap with Flamita. But that was one of the dates that we can get Flamita, and we really, really, really wanted to be one of the first independent companies to feature Flamita because, after, seeing him and, like I said, Adam Lash has sent me so much footage on this guy.
Made that sweet video.
And yeah, he made like that hype video about Flamita is coming and all sorts of things. We definitely wanted to figure out a way to book him, and so many other dates didn't line up, and he was available on this date. So we went ahead and, we pulled the trigger on it. So it was going to be like Flamita, students, and we were going to book Sanjay Dutt because Sanjay Dutt's the fucking best. And then,
And we support Global Force.
Global Force Gold.
Yeah.
So, we start booking things, and we were initially going to, we wanted to bring Hawkins out and Brian Myers to work with one of our students. We wanted them to initially work with Brian Meyer or to work with Brian Carson, just because we figured it's hard to get these students on shows doing singles matches, and that's what they need to do, and they need to learn from people that are better than them. So we wanted to have Brian Carson get in there with Brian Myers and hope that he can learn some things, and then as TNA canceled their television tapings and more people became available and more people started contacting us to get on, plans changed, and it quickly became Brian Myers versus Grado, which I'll let Biggins, discuss the Grado portion because he's, we deal with different people sometimes. Like, I have my guys I book, Biggins has his guys he books, and like we very rarely cross over on like the talent we're kind of in charge of.
I think like Colt Cabana and Sanjay are probably two of the only crossover guys. Usually Thorne has like a crew of guys and I have a crew of guys and they combined. But Grado, I talk to him all the time on Voxer, and he hit me up one night and was like, I'm going to be in America for TNA. I want to come up to your show. Let's figure it out. So then him and Myers, have wanted to work each other for a long time. So it seemed like a natural fit. But then the week of the show, Grado hit me up from TNA and said that he had an emergency back home. And he wasn't able to change his travel and anything, so he had to go back early, which was unfortunate for us. But then Brian Myers, we put him against Brian Carson. And then, 1 a.m. the night before on Thursday night?
Yeah, so typically Myers hops in with like a van load of people coming from the East Coast. And with Joey Janela, who was originally supposed to be on this show. He got thrown off a building by Zandig, so he is out of action.
Truck that was on fire.
Yeah, into a flaming truck for Game Changer Wrestling. So he was originally supposed to be on this show, and there was a carload of people coming from the East Coast. Joey Janela was forced to drop out, and then Carson was forced to drop out. That's how you got booked, Glenmore.
Don't remind us.
So we end up, Hawkins ends up kind of being the sole guy coming from the East Coast. So we book him a flight on like Tuesday or Wednesday before the show, like the week of, and I'm at the airport picking up Shayna Baszler, who landed at like 1:30 in the morning Friday morning, and like I get a text from Brian Myers, and he was just like, my flight was just canceled. And like I'm like, what? It's not snowing. There's no natural disasters happening. His flight was canceled due to air traffic control issues.
Yeah, and they said they had no clue what that means.
So we're like, well, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck do we do now? So I'm like picking this girl up at the airport, and I text Biggins. I'm like, dude, you got to call the airport or something, and
I'm like half asleep going, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah. I was like, I can't call the airport. Like, I'm picking her up. I have to take her to her hotel and things. And I was like, he was supposed to be at the airport at 4:00 in the morning, cause his flight was at like 5:30 a.m. So we're like, fuck, like, what are we supposed to do? He calls, whatever, what was it? American Airlines or United or whatever?
United, I think.
United. And, basically they tell him like, oh, no problem. There's multiple flights flying to Cleveland throughout the day. He'll be able,
I think it was like 8 a.m., 11 a.m.,
1 p.m. and 3 p.m.
3, yeah.
And, we'll put him, we'll get him on standby. It'll be no problem. Well, United failed to tell us that they had sold out of every single one of those flights that they that they said that he could get on.
And for whatever reason, they decided that day they were going to run smaller jets than normal.
Yeah, it was like they're all small airplanes or something, small jets. So, Hawkins goes to the airport at like 6 a.m. and is like, hey, my flight was canceled. I'm here for standby or whatever. And
they're like, hey, it's a good chance you might get on this 8 o'clock.
So like, my phone is just going off throughout the day. Like, didn't get on 8 a.m., waiting for 10. First on the list.
But every time they like kept him on the hook. Every time they're like, oh, you'll probably get on the next one.
Yeah, and then he didn't get on at 10, and then he didn't get on at the 11 or 12 or 1 or whatever it was, and then finally 3 o'clock he didn't get on, and he's like, dude, like, I can't get on. Like, I have to go home. Like, I can't get there now. Like, I think like that was the last flight coming out was like 6 p.m. or something. So there's no way that he could ever made it. So then
And I'm already at the venue at this point, and we have nothing.
Yeah, so like we start scrambling, and I start like hitting up anybody in my phone. Like I talked to Rhino, and Rhino's like, "What time's the show?" And I think this is like hopeful, and then like he's just like, "Oh, I'd never make it in time." And I was like, "What?" Like, okay, why? Like, why'd you even ask? And then I try to get hold of Zach Gowen, and like he can't do it, and Chris Sabin can't do it.
And Shane, we actually thought of Shane early, but we couldn't find a number for him.
Yeah, like whatever number I had for Shane Douglas didn't work. So then like it's boiling down to like Shane Douglas, like trying to find Shane Douglas's new phone number or a working phone number or Sabu. And we're like, last time we booked Sabu, he rolled with like the dirtiest fucking crew I've ever seen in my life. We called it the Sabu Dirty Crew. So we're like,
enforce like a dude that looked like Sammy Hagar on the show.
Yeah, that's Sabbath or something. Absolution 6, look it up. It's fucking dark days. But so then like I think Hawkins gets me a working number for Shane Douglas, and
you were picking up people from the airport, so you sent me the number.
Yeah, I was getting Sanjay Dutt, I think. So I sent him the number, and like he called Shane Douglas at like I think 4 p.m.
Yeah, and he didn't answer. So I text him, and I get a response back, "I'll call you in 5 minutes." Well, 5 minutes became an hour, so I'm panicking at this point because I'm thinking we're going to have to book Big Mo maybe.
Yeah, and the thing is like, we wanted, like, as much as this was going to be like a student show and things like that, we also wanted to make sure that there was some sort of like stars there, like former television stars or whatever, because this is a new area for us that we're trying to kind of build up, and we had put a lot of advertising into former WWE star Brian Myers will be here, and TNA star Grado.
Yeah,
we put a lot in the advertising, so we wanted to come up with something because now this match is just not happening at all at this point. So like my stress level was fucking through the roof because like I didn't want to disappoint people, or people be like, "Oh, like fuck these guys, they're false advertising shit."
Yeah, because we did an ad for the show, and I think the top 3 names were Grado, Brian Myers, and Sheena, and only Sheena was there and Sanjay, but
yeah,
I mean half of the names were gone at that point.
Right. So like we're freaking out just based on like disappointing fans and like kind of getting that like bad reputation, that bad like independent wrestling, like
especially because Lake County has been burned countless times.
Yeah, like there's really no wrestling there anymore, but there used to be it used to be a pretty like consistent area 15 years ago. So like we're trying to like rebuild that back up, and we're like freaking out, and then
so I finally text Shane, and I'm like, "Listen, man, it's been an hour. What's the deal?" And he calls me immediately and was like, "Sorry, I can't talk and send emails at the same time on my phone." So then he's like,
how many emails did he say he sent for the day?
328 emails, I think he said.
That's a lot of fucking emails, man.
He's got a lot of stuff going on right now.
328 emails is why he couldn't call us back.
He's got a lot of business going on.
And then,
right now.
So my favorite part of this story is Biggins talks to him, and then he goes, "Oh, hold on. I just got to get a babysitter."
Oh, yeah. He did
there.
say that. And then he had me describe, like, almost street-by-street directions from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to men around the Lake, Ohio. And then this is about 5 minutes of, you take this road, and then you take this road, and then he goes, fuck it, I got a GPS.
Oh my goodness.
Text me the address.
But, like, that was, like, that by far my favorite thing of the whole story is, the two things. I sent 328 emails in the last hour, and oh yeah, I'll be there. I just got to get a babysitter. Like, so Shane Douglas, like, we have the order set or whatever, and whatever Hawkins and Grado was supposed to be on like 4th or something like that. And then we talked to Carson and we say, hey, you're gonna be working with Shane Douglas. Not sure when he's going to get here, but we're trying to keep it on the first half because we know if we put it on the first half, he could go out at intermission or whatever. And we we wanted the
It's
space.
just like with the flow of the show, it worked.
Right. So Shane Douglas rolls in at match 3, and he's on 5th.
And I was texting him the whole time, and he's like, "I'm almost there, man. Don't worry, I'm on my way."
And my favorite thing is me, Biggins, Sanjay Dutt, and Josh Prohibition decided that because the locker room, the place is super small, so we just decided to make the back parking lot our locker room, which is
by the dumpster.
yeah. The people EC3 got dressed by the dumpster. We had people in the U-Haul.
There's a pile of carpet that Ray Lynn was just sitting on.
Yeah, all the luchadors were in like some like
Alleyway?
No, they were like on like a landscaping trailer that was parked back there.
Yeah,
Well, wasn't the place going like renovations and they had all the stuff?
Wait,
like,
yeah.
outside?
They said, okay, Thorne could tell you the
Yeah.
text.
So the guy tells me like, hey, you're gonna love it, man. Renovated the whole place. 20% more room in here. They didn't tell us that they were currently renovating the place, and when we would show up, there would be people sawing things.
Yeah, we had to wait with the ring for an hour while they were building the entire building.
Yeah, they were like basically renovating it that afternoon.
Yeah.
So like the space that we used for the locker room had like saws and like pieces of wood and like random metal and drills and fucking machinery.
Yeah, it looked like a Home Depot like just spilled all over the locker room.
Yeah, it was a fucking like the locker room turned into a Lowe's real quick. So we just we're like fuck it, it's nice out. Like let's just dress outside. So myself, Biggins, Sanjay Dutt, and Josh Prohibition decided we were going to play the game. What kind of car does Shane Douglas drive? Because we're waiting for the franchise to roll up. I went with a small-sized SUV similar to a RAV4.
I said Explorer.
What did Sanjay say? I don't remember.
I forgot. A Jetta, maybe?
I think he said some kind of sedan of some sort.
Yeah. So anyways, this brand new...
Couldn't fucking believe it.
This brand new Land Rover, like all pimped out. This thing must have cost $80,000.
I go, there's fucking Shane Douglas right
We
there.
thought Shane Douglas pulled up. It was like a 75-year-old woman.
Yeah, that Lyco startup money, man.
Yeah. I told Sanjay I'd sign on the dotted line immediately if that was him in that Land Rover.
Yeah, I'd be going to Vegas for sure for that new startup, but it wasn't Shane.
No, it was an old lady looking for directions.
He rolled up in like a 2010 Ford Fusion.
Oh man.
So, but that's just kind of the like we were just fucking passing
Bought that
time.
with the pro wrestling versus zombie money.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, like I couldn't believe how fucking pumped people were for the fucking franchise. Like,
Well, okay,
The reaction was great.
because like I loved the franchise. I loved Shane Douglas. I loved ECW. I loved the Triple Threat. But like being promoters, we have gathered over time that our likes are kind of lost in the current generation sometimes.
The fucking millennials.
Yeah. So like you got to think about it. ECW is fucking almost 20 years ago. So I'm like, this is cool, but I'm also worried like nobody's
going to get it.
Nobody's gonna give a fuck. Like, did we just spend like money just to have a star here that no one's gonna care about?
Yeah.
It got to the point where are we just booking a name to make ourselves feel better about running the show? Would people care if Grado and Brian Myers weren't there? We don't know if this is like a reality thing, but in our heads,
We don't want to under deliver.
yeah.
But I'm also worried that delivering Shane Douglas is going to under deliver too, because like we're fully aware that Shane Douglas is not the Shane Douglas of 1997 anymore.
But in his defense, like he's had some good outings recently, like Alpha One up in Canada and stuff. So we weren't like
Don't give fucking Ethan Page no fucking free plugs.
we weren't worried it was going to be a train wreck. We were just worried for our own.
We were just worried that people weren't gonna fucking know.
Yeah.
And like, dude, people lost their fucking shit.
They're going
like,
crazy.
Well, he shows up literally 15 minutes before his match, goes up change.
oh yeah. So like, I walk up to him. This is like he goes into the fucking Home Depot area of the locker room
Yeah.
upstairs. I go up there like. the potato or somebody goes, hey man, you're on in one match. So he's like, okay, cool. He didn't even fucking care. It's super professional. Like that is the fucking like sign of a professional. You're on in 15 minutes. Just gets out of a fucking Ford Fusion. That not even a fucking hesitation.
And not to pull the curtain back too far, but him and Carson introduced each other to they introduced themselves to each other.
I walk up to Shane and I go, here man, I'm John. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much. Because I know this fucking guy has no fucking idea that he's worked for us before, has no idea that I've fucking worked for Extreme Reunion or Rising or whatever the fuck it was called. Has no fucking idea. So I just introduce myself to him like I'm a brand new guy. I give him his envelope full of money, and I say, he's gonna come. Carson's gonna come out, cut a heel promo. You're gonna interrupt. Do whatever you want to do. You're over with the belly to belly, and he goes, cool man, no problem. And that fucking guy changed the finish, man. He was just like,
changed it in the ring,
dude. There was this guy in the crowd. His name is Juicy Jack Package. This guy was screaming belly to belly for 25 straight minutes when Shane Douglas came out. Belly to belly, belly to belly. And I walk up to him, I go, you're going to fucking see that belly to belly, man. I promise you.
Yeah.
And he goes, really? I go, fucking right, you're going to see that belly to belly suplex. Fucking Shane Douglas changes the finish. This guy was so pissed at me. He goes, you motherfucker, you told me I would see a belly to belly. I said,
hey, it was in the script.
I said he changed the finish.
Yeah.
But the thing I was going to say about, him and Carson introduced themselves to each other. And Carson's like, well, what do you want to do? And Shane Douglas is like, I don't know, but let's talk about Pittsburgh Penguins, man. They won the cup. If Brian Carson maybe had 50 matches, dude is, never been in a situation like this before in his life. He's never worked somebody at that higher level than him.
Worked with, man. Come on, didn't Necro Butcher teach you anything?
Dylan. What's up, Dylan?
You work the fans, man. You work with your opponent.
Hey, man.
But, Brian Carson is probably losing his fucking mind, because he's never done anything that's not called.
Oh, he was pacing the locker room like John Gargano.
Yeah, he was just like, and they go out there and they have a really good fucking match, and then Carson terrified I'm gonna be mad. Terrified that, I think he changed something. He walks right to me and goes, Shane Douglas' idea, man. I'm so sorry. It was his. I told him I had to lose. And I was like, it's fine, man. I don't fucking, I don't care, if that's what he wanted to do. And, Shane's point was, hey, I'm probably not going to be back here. You are, so you should beat me. And, props to him for doing that, because you never know with some of these stars. Some of these guys don't want to fucking
big egos.
They don't want to lose. Yeah. They don't want to do shit. So props to Shane Douglas for that. And
it was a highly competitive match too.
Yeah, not for nothing. Shane Douglas has not looked so good in recent years, and he looked like he's dropped quite a considerable amount of weight.
He looked really good, yeah.
And he was very with it. Cut a nice promo, and then he cuts everywhere, but nobody there knew that.
Oh, people there were going crazy for the introduction.
But people lost their fucking mind. I've never experienced, as a promoter, I've never experienced so much positivity. I'm walking to get a beer or something, and literally 20 people as I walked by are grabbing me and hugging me and just saying, the fucking franchise, man, how'd you do it? And I thought nobody was going to give a fuck.
And while you're on one side, I'm on the other side getting the exact same.
And I was just like, dude, I fucking booked Flamita, who I had to fly from Mexico City, and people are losing their minds over fucking the franchise Shane Douglas. Yeah. It's just but I think if we would have advertised Shane Douglas, nobody would give a fuck.
Yeah.
But the fact that he was there is a surprise. Literally nobody saw him because he got there 15 minutes before his match. I think that was just a genuine reaction from people, which is cool.
And watching the crowd from my vantage point, when his music started playing, people were looking at each other like, okay, who is this? And then all of a sudden they saw Shane Douglas, and they're like, oh my God, Shane Douglas is here. It was that delayed pop from the music to where they actually saw him coming through the curtain. It was great.
Right.
And ironically, Shane Douglas texted me today looking for more dates, so he might be a men are on the lake guy.
Oh, yeah, we got to bring him and Carson back, man. Yeah. We got to bring it back. But, that's just one of the, like just fucking weird things that we have to deal with. But we probably could have got by fine if we didn't book Shane Douglas.
But I think mentally we just can't handle it.
Yeah, like we need to do something, like, because I don't know, like I know what it's like. I know what it was like when I was going to fucking indie shows when I was fucking 15 years old, and I'd be like real pumped to see somebody, and they just wouldn't fucking be there. Like it's disappointing. You know what I mean?
Real quick, I'll tell a bait and switch story. It's only going to take a second. But I went to a show in Youngstown, Ohio once, and Dan the Beast Severn and Virgil had a match before intermission, and they went to a double count out, and the Hank Hudson announced that the main event tonight is going to be a steel cage match between Dan the Beast Severn and Virgil. Fucking main event went on, wasn't the cage match. Virgil was selling his autographs out in the front lobby. I was so mad. So that's my...
So, like, but, like, we went to these shows, and saw stuff like that. So, like, to not be able to deliver something, like, it just, I don't know, it makes my conscience feel better. I don't know. Like, I don't want to feel like we're, like, ripping people off.
We might be the only promoters that ever felt that way.
Well, yeah, we're also the only promoters that don't pay ourselves, probably. But,
yeah, that's true.
Like, and the show I thought turned out a lot better than initially planned. Eric Ryan replaced Joey Janela. They had a fucking bloodbath.
Brutal.
Chaos. And, that's just, Eric Ryan, I don't even know if we discussed this at, J-Lit. He came back. He wasn't even cleared to wrestle yet when he came back at J-Lit. He was just there, and we needed somebody. And the same thing,
he brought up the point that he'll never know if he's ready unless he just jumps in the deep end.
Right. So he was just like, hey, I want to wrestle Facade if you don't have a replacement for Janela. So, we went with that. And, like...
Guy looks like a fucking $1 million too now.
Yeah, dude. He definitely has been hitting the gym in his off season or whatever you want to call it.
Jacked.
But, and then fucking Sonjay Dutt and Josh Prohibition. I don't know if anybody got what they did or why we did that match, but it was so fucking entertaining for me and probably Biggins and probably...
Oh, I was laughing my ass off.
Maybe 3 other people. But, like, that's another thing that's, 20 years old almost at this point. They were both in the Best of Backyard Wrestling video series. Probably 2 of the only guys that ended up going legit, and they're still out there doing it. And they played up on this fucking CZW XPW rivalry, which nobody, like, not a chance anybody at the fucking show even got it. But I was laughing my fucking ass off.
And, like, I think they were even corpsing in the ring. So.
Because, like, by the time that this match happens, I had been fucking drinking some beers that I had stored away in the U-Haul for quite some time. So they come out and Sonjay Dutt just starts defending fucking CCW over Josh Prohibition leaving for XPW.
And Josh Prohibition's cutting promos about shitty paydays and trans and...
Yeah, and, like, I'm losing my mind. No, there's no way that anybody is going to get what they did besides, like, fucking Words and Mike versus Philly, maybe. But, like, it's such a long time ago.
What's up, Words?
Yeah, what's up, Words? But, like, it's so fucking, like, What's in the Basement Klopek is, like, just like everything that's great about fucking independent wrestling, because it was just a fun show with so much fucking random shit on it. Like we could probably never pull the trigger on that on like a AIW show at Mount Carmel. Like, I feel like that's a different kind of, that's a different crowd. It's a bigger crowd. But at these shows at Men Are on the Lake, where it's kind of like a new crowd, and then, some of the AIW diehard fans go out there, I feel like we could just have fun, and it doesn't matter what we do.
And, I don't know how well it translates to DVD because we haven't watched it yet, but it's coming out soon. But I definitely think, like, a live experience, it was excellent. And fans were saying that it was so much fun, and, it's not taken as seriously, but it is as serious as, like, a Mount Carmel show, but it's just kind of a looser environment.
Like, looser format, and, like, I think that's something that, like, maybe the internet or the Twitter fans or whatever you want to call them, like, they fail to, like, comprehend that you have to provide a live experience. We're not just producing video. We have to produce a live experience because, these are people that the live crowd is the lifeblood of a independent wrestling promotion. Them coming and, buying tickets and buying merch live at the show. Like, that's how companies exist. So you have to cater to them and provide a live experience. I say a lot, but they EC3 versus Rex Brody. That's another thing that was, I don't know how that will translate to DVD, but live it was a fucking blast. They're doing shots on the bar. They're yelling, like it was interactive. EC3's yelling and doing all this kind of vocal crowd work. It's just so people don't understand that it's hard to find that balance of producing a video yet also just producing a live experience. Like Shane Douglas, DVD audience is probably not going to give a fuck. But as we said, live people went nuts.
Berserk.
On the flip side of that, Sanjay Dutt and Josh Prohibition yapping about CZW versus XPW, that might apply more to the video audience because the Cleveland audience has no fucking idea what they're talking about.
But on the East Coast, that was like the biggest thing in history.
Right. So there's just a fine line, and it'd be hard to I'd feel disappointed if we didn't talk about Shayna Baszler.
The best.
And how much she has progressed for having 10 or 12 matches or whatever it is at this point. Her versus Veda Scott is definitely something that she has never encountered before, and it was a unique kind of learning experience for her. But that's why we wanted to do that, and there's just I was very happy with the show. I don't know what people are going to feel about it either way, but I thought for everything that went wrong, a lot of it went right. We were forced to put the majority of the students in the opening scramble. It's a little messy. There was some near-death experiences in it.
Jeez, yeah.
Gary the King Baller went straight down on his fucking dome on a dive, but luckily he was okay.
Dr. Dan got hurt.
He tore his pectoral muscle. But that's unfortunately initially we wanted to give them all singles matches and kind of have them work with veteran guys, and when dudes are hitting you up and saying, hey, I want to get on the show.
Yeah, it's hard to turn down EC3 and Grado and all these other guys.
Yeah, and DJZ and the luchadors also. I think people that crowd especially did not know what to expect with the Lucha Libre talent. Especially during the Lucha Tag, they were kind of like, what am I fucking watching right now? And then as they kept going, the crowd got really, really fucking hyped for the go-home sequence and stuff like that. But that's the thing is, this is a whole kind of new area. There's maybe 15 AIW regular fans there. The rest are just random people from Lake County, which, this is over an hour away from Mount Carmel where we normally do our shows. So we're just trying to set up a new kind of location, and we'll be able to do, 4 or 5 shows there a year.
And the thing with as a person watching, if you got a ticket, you had wrestling happen in your lap because there was a few matches.
The place is pretty small,
and the few matches, there were wrestling throughout the whole place and jumping, flying off the second floor balcony. I mean,
multiple balcony dives. Flamita did a moonsault out of the balcony, I believe.
So you had
Facade jumped out of the balcony. So, and that's the thing. We were trying to kind of provide a more wild experience because it is a bar. It's new fans, so you got to kind of try to show them like that live experience that I was
like
talking
a more
about.
exciting, because I think there was a lot of non-wrestling fans even there.
Yeah, and that's the thing about that place. It's so small. There's not a bad seat in there. We just do $20 general admission. And people were there. People were lined up there at like 2 p.m. The venue was like, we were having trouble with, it's a whole other like ordeal. But like our mics weren't working. We were having all this, audio trouble, and the venue was like screaming at us, you got to open doors because they're a legitimate venue.
Flamita's flight got in literally at bell time.
Yeah, Flamita's flight got delayed, so he landed at 6:30, which is an hour away from the venue. So we're trying to stall, and the venue, they're used to running concerts and things like that, and they want to get people in there drinking and buying food and things. So they're like, you guys got to fucking open these doors. You guys got to fucking open these doors. And we had so much going wrong before the show, and we were trying to stall. I think, we ended up stalling after we even let people in. We pushed the show start back to 8 p.m. or something like that, maybe a little after. But, that's just, so many things were going wrong.
And what's funny with this forum of the podcast, everybody was super cool about, delays and stuff. And everybody was joking about how they can't wait to hear about it on the podcast.
Yeah, like, when doors are about to open and the mics are dead and they won't charge and they won't turn on, and we're sending our students, like, there's nowhere close you can get a working microphone to Mentor on the Lake, Ohio. We sent our student Kurt to a Radio Shack, and then he's calling on his way there, and they didn't have it. We sent him to a Guitar Center, which ended up being an hour round trip. We got one set of mics to work briefly, and then Kurt, our student, you would recognize him most by he's always wearing a tank top or a wife beater. He
ended his favorite student.
Yeah, he ended up showing up with some piece of equipment. I don't know anything about audio equipment, but Jeff Traxler, who does our sound, he needed some piece of equipment to charge up the mics because the power source was broken or something like that. So, we're like, after all the Brian Myers flight and the Grado stuff, we're getting ready to open, and then we have no fucking microphones.
And we still don't know where Shane is. And
yeah, Shane was missing. Flamita's flight was delayed. We had the potato at the airport looking for the Laredo Kid, who Laredo Kid always goes missing somehow.
For 3 hours at a time, always.
He'll miss for multiple hours at a time. And, he was with Randy, who was trying to translate, and he was waiting for Flamita, who speaks zero English, an hour away at the time it was rush hour, right when he landed.
And we still don't know where Laredo Kid was until he found him.
Right, but all in all, I think it worked out. I guess the fans or whoever would probably be, the judge and jury on that.
If they liked it, we liked it.
Yeah, they liked it, we liked it. Paul Heyman Beyond the Mat style. But I don't know. I guess send me your feedback once you see What's in the Basement Klopek on DVD or MP4 at Smart Mark Video.
Yeah, I thought it was, overall a great show. And then
I heard the commentary sucked.
Well, don't have me back then.
Shout out to Sanjay Dutt for giving me a free shirt because Facade got Surge all over it.
What a waste of Surge.
Man, fuck. Sanjay was fucking pissed. But, that's just, I guess, kind of a brief description of what we had to go through.
Those shirts are as good as gold.
They're as good as gold. Global Force gold.
Bottom line, will we see a show back out there soon?
Yeah, they've actually already asked us to come back. We have so many things kind of on the schedule right now. I don't want to overdo it. You know what I mean? We have July 22nd. August 6th, August 26th, September 9th. So that's a lot of shows in a small kind of window. So maybe late September or something like that, we would, we'll give something to try out at Mentor on the Lake. I definitely want to space it out because I don't want to kill the territory, as they say.
All right. Any final thoughts, guys? Any final?
Thanks for everybody to come out to Mentor on the Lake. I know it's hard for a lot of people to travel that far out, but for the people that do, we appreciate it.
My final thought is that guy that runs Vegas Fuel said he was going to send me some free Vegas Fuel, and he never did. So tweet him and tell him to send me some free Vegas Fuel because this is how I get through these podcasts.
All right. This has been episode number 5. The Card is Going to Change, presented by AIW.
Oh, happy 4th of July, by the way, everybody.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, this is coming out. This will be out July 4th. So God bless America. But also, make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, the Google Play Store. Follow on Twitter, AI Wrestling, Facebook, Instagram. Visit AIWrestling.com for events, merch, and more. Leave feedback on this episode on Twitter and Facebook pages of AIW. And for John Thorne and Chandler Biggins, I am Glenn Moore. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks.